Chag Sameach, everyone. Nice seeing everyone. And Shabbat Shalom, everyone. A double simcha. As we are in the middle of the holiday of Passover. It's Shabbat, we're in the middle of the holiday of Passover. And I guess my question is, when was the moment? When's the liminal moment of the Exodus? When we're reading the story and you know what? The Exodus is going to happen. It's going to work out. We're going to make it out of Egypt. While you're thinking of your answer, I just want you to be aware that the rabbis have different takes on when is that moment when the Exodus is going to unfold. So for you, when you hear the story, when is that moment where you're like, you know what? It's going to work out. We're going to, make it. However you see the end of the Exodus being, whether it be getting out of Egypt, crossing the Red Sea, whatever. When is that moment for you? Thank you, Mark. Yes? Literally when we, chapter 12, chapter 13 of Exodus, when we really are getting out. Because you didn't know how it was going to go. One of the Psalms we just recited in Hallel was created when the 10th plague was taking place. And amongst all of this horror and tragedy, the people of Israel felt, Mikimi mi'afardal, like, lift me up from this dust. I don't know if I'm going to make it to the other side. So only for Mark, when they made it through those walls, so to speak.
Because that's when Pharaoh actually said, get out of here already.
That's when Pharaoh actually said, okay, very good. So it was two things, actually leaving and finally hearing Pharaoh say at that time, it's time to go. Bruce and then Brian. When we finally knew the Egyptians were finished because the Red Sea closed on the Egyptians and they were no longer going to chase us, at least for a very, very long time. Really good. Brian and then Isaac. You never knew when he was going to change his mind, so only when the Red Sea closes. Really nice. Isaac.
I have two possibilities.
Sure.
One would be the end of chapter 10, when Pharaoh says, get away from me. If you come back to see me again, you're going to die. And Moshe says, you have no idea how right you are. And storms off. That's the moment of no return. There's no longer a place for Pharaoh to even, he is cut off the possibility of compromise. He's cut off the possibility of finding a solution.
Nice.
And the other place is actually substantially further, which is Sinai. That the Exodus is not complete. We're in the Omer season. I'm not going to. 2 days ago was 0th day, I believe. There's this idea that the Exodus is not complete until we find a new thing to serve where we have a much more just contract with that.
Very nice. So two answers there. One is when Pharaoh prophesizes. Pharaoh makes a prophecy. The second is Mount Sinai. And by the way, the people of Israel, up until and even after, were like, hey, can we go back? Can we go back? As you said, the Sinai gave us a Torah, a covenant linked to our future and who we were going to become. Good. Anyone else? Diana. So sorry, I gotta turn over here. Yes.
So I have a little bit of a tiny different take. I think it was yes to everything, but then God did the sea, which was great. But we had to have some boots on the ground too. And I think it was when Nachshon ben Aminadab stuck his toe in. He was the first one. Someone had to go in. It's like with technology, you have the early adapters, and then you have the later ones, and then you have the ones who are like, I don't want any of this. And the rabbis say 80% didn't want any of it. So now we have the 20% who showed up. And it was like, I'm not going, you go, I'm not going. And Nachshon was like, hey, I'll go. And he stuck his toe in and he took that leap of faith, if you will, and said, good to go, off we go. And Moses continued to be their leader, but he still needed that sort of human part of it too.
Nice. Those of you who are not familiar with Nachshon ben Aminadab, he was the person who, when the people of Israel were lined up on the Red Sea, and Moshe and God say, go in, and the seas don't split, he is the one who puts his foot in and there's a lot of stories about how it took place, but it was through his human action, right, that caused the redemption to unfold. So really nice, really, really nice. Michal.
Well, I just thought of a totally different answer because I really liked everything everybody else said. But maybe until they built something of their own, like the Mishkan, it wasn't really, they weren't there yet. But before they built for other people and they've been wandering around, but they created something of their own.
Beautiful, beautiful. Until the people of Israel built their own sanctuary with their own hands, right? That they were able to really turn the page away from Egypt. Beautiful, beautiful answers. And as you're all listening to each other, I want you just to also pay attention to the story behind the moment. For some of us, it was once we knew our enemy was removed, right? Then we knew we were free. For some of us, it was once we were out of that space, then we knew we were free. And for some of us, it had something to do with who we were becoming, whether it be building a Mishkan, getting the Torah, that allowed us to leave Egypt. So I want to share with you the answer of Nachmanides. Nachmanides brings us to, and if you want to follow along, you can, in chapter 5, verse 4, page 339 in your Humashim. It's very early on in the Exodus story. Moses had just returned from his journey in Midian. He makes his first appearance in front of Pharaoh. And Pharaoh turns to him and says, the king of Egypt says to him, Moses and Aaron, why do you distract the people from their tasks? Lama shevron tifra'u etam mima asav lechu lesivlo techem. Okay? Why are you, beautiful choice of words, distract the people from what they're supposed to be doing? Go you to your labors. Now, at first glance, the pshat seems that Pharaoh was just saying, come on, go back. You guys are all slaves. Go back to being slaves. Nachmanides says, why the choice of two different words here? He's hinting that Moshe and Aaron have different tasks that they carry. And that is the task of the tribe of Levites. And Levites, they're going to become this, but according to Nachmanides, he's reading this into the story. They are the teachers. They are the ones who are to be learning at this moment. So what Pharaoh tells Moses and Aaron is, why don't you go back to learning? Don't bother yourself with this whole slavery thing. You guys, tribe of Levi, you live in a very nice, cushy, protected status. Don't bother yourselves with the work of the other tribes. And what is Pharaoh doing here? Pharaoh is trying to separate out Moses and Aaron from the people of Israel. We often think Pharaoh as being, like the foil to, our God. But Pharaoh, according to Nachmanides, very wise. He's trying to divide us. And I think Nachmanides is building off of a midrash, a part of the text that says that where did King Pharaoh come from? He was the one who forgot Joseph. And we have to go back to understanding, how did the people of Israel enter into the land of Egypt? It was a story of division. It was a story of not having faith. And you could see Joseph as the one who is the reconciler, who ultimately says, oh, wait a second, we're all a family. I want my whole family to come together. And Pharaoh forgot this. So the move here is for Pharaoh to say, just think of yourself. Don't think about the people of Israel. And of course, we know how the story unfolds. Ultimately, Moses and Aaron respond to that challenge. And by the way, it takes a little bit of time. Respond to that challenge by saying, no. We are all one people. We see in the Torah this idea being reinforced because when we are brought into the wilderness, a very central value of ours is you should ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. You should love your neighbor as yourself. And here, Moses and Aaron have a chance to be like, I don't need to think about my re'echa. I just need to think about what is best for me at this moment. And we only can become free when we are able to see ourselves as one central people. And this is a theme, by the way, in the entire book of the Torah. Because when we are tasked with spying out the land, we come back saying, oh, we are like grasshoppers. And the rabbis teach us, why were we unsuccessful? What was the sin there? Not only not having a faith in God's words, but also not having a faith in each other, that together we can come together and we can do anything. We see this theme reinforced, by the way, in the story of the Haggadah. Of the 4 questions, you can see the specific questions that are asked as highlighting this idea that we have to work together. First question is, why matzah? Matzah is the bread of humility. Why do we recline? We think it's about our own personal comfort, but those of you who recline and who allow yourself not to pour your own cup of wine because you're supposed to be royalty, know that the only way you do that is by you pouring for someone else, and that we all allow each other to recline. It's almost as if we were all reclining in different directions, it couldn't work. But when we are in unison, we can all recline. Why do we dip twice? We dip twice because the beginning of the story is us being this young, innocent people, and then dividing. We go down to Egypt and feeling the bitterness of separation. And then here we are feeling the bitterness of separation, and then all of a sudden it's the sweetness, not of freedom, but perhaps it is the sweetness of love that the Haroset reminds us of. And there is one more question that is there. I'm drawing a blank on it. What question am I missing? We already got that. That's the dipping twice, reclining, matzah, and why are we dipping? Why maror? Right. So maror we eat to highlight the bitterness of separation. There were two questions in one. Halachma anya. Right. True. By the way, the Paschal offering, Isaac, also highlights this idea because there were 2 elements of the Paschal offering that were really powerful. One is it had to be roasted, meaning that it was going to get smaller in a sign of humility. 2 is it had to be shared and there could not be leftovers. And the rabbis read into this and said, what does it mean there can't be leftovers? You had to share it with others. So you had to think, well, I'm not going to be able to eat my entire Paschal lamb on the Erev Passover, so I have to make sure that I invite people to my home so that I can share it. That sharing is an expression of love. So there's many ways we can understand the Exodus story, and the way we understand the Exodus story has to do with what is the message of the Exodus. And alas, we could always see that in every generation, there are those who stand up to destroy us, and yes, unfortunately, as we see in every generation, that is to be true. But equally as true are those who not only stand up to destroy us, but who stand up to divide us, our big vulnerability. And in the face of those who stand up to divide us, like King Pharaoh, may we be reminded of the teaching of Nachmanides and the ultimate choice of Aaron and Moses, of not to think of our own selves, but to think of ourselves as part of a community and the love that binds us. Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach.